All right, so get this right. Today we are diving deep into a way you could potentially turn, like, that old furniture gathering dust into some profit. And no, I'm not talking about, you know those, chaotic online marketplaces. This is Kaiyo, a platform that's all about convenience and potentially maximizing your earnings.
It's interesting, really, how Kaiyo is kind of changing the game for buyer and sellers. They cater to a very specific niche, those who value a hassle-free experience.
So no more like awkward pickup negotiations or blurry photos in your basement. That sounds amazing. Tell me more about this white glove service.
Oh, they handle like everything, literally everything. Pickup, cleaning, they do professional photo shoots, storage, they'll even do listing and delivery. It's designed to attract buyers who are willing to pay a premium for a seamless experience.
Okay, so Kaiyo does all the heavy lifting, but what's the catch? For the seller, there's got to be a trade-off. Right.
Yeah, well, that's where the consignment model comes in. You get a percentage of the final sale price, but it's on a sliding scale.
Wait, so the pay-up actually goes down over time. That's fascinating and a little counterintuitive. Why would they do that?
Well, it's actually very clever. It keeps things moving quickly, benefits both Kaiyo and the seller. Imagine you've got a sofa. It's listed at, say, $500. In the first 30 days, you would get 60%. That's $300. But then, if it sits there for another month, that drops to 50%, meaning you only get $250.
Wow. So time really is money in this case. So it seems like setting the right price from the get-go is important.
Oh, absolutely. And Kaiyo gives you access to data on how similar items are priced and how long they take to sell, which helps you make informed decisions.
Having that kind of market data at your fingertips would be a game changer. So now I'm curious about what kind of furniture Kaiyo actually ACXX are they taking? Like anything and everything?
No, quite. They're pretty selective, focusing on quality and style. Think of brands like, West Elm, Crate and Barrel, pieces that are in good to excellent condition. Ideally, it's either a timeless design or currently on trend.
So they curate their inventory to appeal to a specific buyer. Okay, so let's say you have a piece that fits the bill. What's the next step? Do you need professional level photography skills to even submit?
Well, clear, well-lit photos are definitely key for the initial submission. But you don't need fancy equipment or anything. It's more about giving Kaiyo a clear representation of the item. And they'll take care of the professional photo shoot if your piece is accepted.
So that takes a lot of pressure off. But what about being honest about the condition? I mean, we've all been tempted to, like, downplay a scratch or two when selling online.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But trying to hide anything on Kaiyo is a recipe for disaster. They're going to inspect the piece thoroughly anyway. So honesty is paramount. Any flaws or damage need to be disclosed up front.
So full transparency is the name of the game. Now, I've heard they sometimes make instant offers on certain items. Is that true, or is that just a furniture flipping myth?
It's true. Yeah, they might offer to buy your item outright, especially if it's high demand. It's super convenient because you get paid immediately.
But there's always a trade-off. What's the catch with these instant offers?
Well, typically, the price they offer is lower than what you could potentially earn through consignment. So it's about weighing your priorities, speed and convenience, versus potentially maximizing your profit.
So you need to decide what's more important to you in that moment. Okay. Let's say you're ready to really commit to this Kaiyo hustle. Are there any pro moves you could use for maximizing your earnings?
Well, there are a couple of more advanced strategies, but I should emphasize these come with risks and require deeper understanding of the market. One option is sourcing furniture specifically to resell on Kaiyo.
Wow. So you'd be scouting thrift stores, estate sales, maybe even rescuing furniture from the curb.
Exactly. But here's the thing. You need to know what Kaiyo's looking for, what will sell quickly, and what price you can realistically achieve. So it's a lot more research intensive.
You really need to have your finger on the pulse of the furniture market to pull that off successfully.
Absolutely. The other advanced strategy is building a strong relationship with Kaiyo.
So becoming a Kaiyo VIP, how's that work?
Think of it as being a consistently reliable seller by consistently providing high-quality items and being professional. In your communications, you might get some perks down the line.
Perks like don't leave me hanging.
Think faster approvals for submissions, maybe more direct communication with their team, and maybe even slightly better terms on payouts.
Interesting. But I'm guessing there are no guarantees.
Right. It's still their platform and their business model.
Okay, so we've talked about selling on Kaiyo, but let's switch gears a minute. What are the things to avoid? What are the biggest mistakes people make when they first start out?
One of the biggest, not doing enough research. People kind of jump in without fully understanding Kaiyo's guidelines, their target market, the type of furniture that performs well.
It's not as simple as having a basement full of stuff that you want to get rid of.
Exactly. You need to think strategically about what you submit, how you present it, and how you price it.
It's almost like treating it as a mini business, not just a casual way to declutter. What else should people avoid doing?
Another common mistake, underestimating the time commitment. While Kaiyo handles a lot, you still need to dedicate time to prepping your items, communicating with them, and monitoring your listings.
So it's not totally passive income.
Definitely not. You need to be organized and proactive to really make it work.
All right, so we've covered the basics of selling on Kaiyo, the potential pitfalls, and even some advanced strategies. But I think we need to dig a little deeper into the financial side of things.
Yeah, I agree. Understanding the numbers is key to making informed decisions and maximizing your profit.
Okay, so before we get too deep into the numbers, I've got to ask, have you ever sold anything on a platform like this before?
Not exactly like Kaiyo. I've definitely dabbled in online marketplaces, though. There's a definite learning curve when it comes to pricing. And understanding what buyers are looking for.
Yeah, I can imagine. So when it comes to Kaiyo, it seems like understanding that sliding payout scale is key. Aside from just like listing things ASAP, how else can you use it to your advantage?
It's all about finding that sweet spot between price and timing. So let's say you have a beautiful mid-century modern dresser, and you think it could fetch a good price. You list it for, say, $400, and you're thinking, I'll hold out for the best offer. But remember, that 60% payout only lasts for the first 30 days.
So if someone offered like $350 within that first month, you're actually better off taking, even though it's slightly less than your asking price.
Exactly. You'd get $210 right away. But if you wait and it sells for the full $400 in the next 30-day period, you'd only get 50%. So that's just $200. So you actually end up making less money. And you've had that dresser just sitting in Kaiyo's warehouse for an extra month.
That's a great illustration of how even like a small difference in price combined with that ticking clock can really impact your earnings.
It's definitely something to keep in mind when you're setting your initial price and considering offers.
Now, let's talk about the less glamorous side of making money, taxes. So if I sell furniture through Kaiyo, does that mean I'm going to get a visit from the IRS?
Well, the good news is Kaiyo handles the sales tax part of the transaction, collecting and remitting the correct amount based on where the buyer lives. But when it comes to income tax, that's your responsibility.
Okay, so I need to keep track of all my Kaiyo sales and report them on my tax return, just like any other income.
That's right. It's a good habit to keep detailed records of all your sales and expenses throughout the year. That way, you're not scrambling when tax season rolls around.
Good advice. I'm all about minimizing stress, especially when it comes to taxes. So you mentioned that one of the pro strategies is sourcing furniture, specifically to sell on Kaiyo. Let's say I stumble upon a gorgeous vintage armchair at a thrift store. What are the key things I should be thinking about before I even consider buying it to resell?
Okay, well, first, does it align with Kaiyo's style and quality standards? Remember, they're looking for recognizable brands, good condition, and timeless or trendy designs. So, if that armchair is a perfect fit, your next step is to assess its condition.
So no, rib upholstery or wobbly legs.
Exactly. Any repairs or cleaning will cut into your profit margin, so factor those potential costs in. And then you need to figure out if you can acquire it for a price that allows for a decent profit margin.
So let's say this armchair Takes all the boxes, it's stylish, it's in great condition, and the thrift store's practically giving it away. What's next? How do I figure out what it's actually worth? On Kaiyo.
That's where your market research skills come in. Spend some time browsing Kaiyo's website and look for similar armchairs. Pay attention to their condition, brand, and, most importantly, the prices they're listed at.
So it's like becoming a Kaiyo armchair expert.
Yeah, pretty much. You want to get a sense of the price range. For comparable pieces, and remember, Kaiyo sets the final price, but you'll have input based on your assessment of the armchair's value.
So it's a collaborative process.
Exactly.
Now, let's say I've done my research, I've smacked the armchair for steel, and I'm ready to submit it to Kaiyo. Any tips for making my submission stand out?
Well, remember those clear, well-lit photos we talked about. Those are even more important. When you're sourcing items yourself, you want to showcase that armchair in its best light, literally. Choose a clean, uncluttered background, good natural lighting, and make sure you highlight any special features or details.
So it's all about presentation. Now, I know we talked about building relationships with Kaiyo as a way to potentially get some perks, but how do you actually do that? It's not like you can just call them up and ask to be best friends.
Right. It's more about establishing yourself as a reliable and trustworthy seller. So, consistently submitting high-quality items that are well presented and accurately described goes a long way.
So it's about like exceeding their expectations, not just meeting them.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of clear, professional communication. Respond to their messages promptly. Be polite, be helpful, and address any questions or concerns they might have.
So it's about building a positive working relationship, just like in any other professional setting.
Right. And while there are no guarantees, consistently going above and beyond might just get you noticed and potentially lead to those faster approvals or slightly better payout terms.
Okay, so we talked about the strategic side of sourcing items for Kaiyo, but let's be real. There's always a chance that even the most carefully chosen piece won't sell. What happens then? Do you just end up stuck with a vintage armchair that nobody wants?
Well, that's definitely a risk, especially when you're sourcing items yourself. But remember, Kaiyo has a vested interest in selling the furniture they accept. So if something isn't moving, they might suggest a price adjustment.
So it's a good idea to be open to adjusting your expectations if the market isn't responding to a particular piece.
Exactly. And sometimes it's simply a matter of timing. Maybe that armchair will be a hot commodity next season, or maybe just needs a slightly different description or presentation to catch a buyer's eye.
So it's a good reminder that even in the world of furniture flipping, patience and adaptability is our key.
Absolutely. And if all else fails, Kaiyo will typically offer you options for getting the item back or potentially donating it.
That's reassuring to know. Now I'm curious, are there any red flags to watch out for when sourcing furniture to resell on Kaiyo? Things that just scream, stay away?
Definitely. Pieces with major structural damage are usually a no-go, unless you're skilled at repairs and can do it affordably. Water damage or signs of pests are also big red flags.
So it's about being able to spot those issues. That might not be immediately obvious to the untrained eye.
Exactly. And remember, Kaiyo has high standards for the furniture they accept. So if you're not sure about something, it's always better to err on the side of caution.
It's not worth risking your reputation as a seller on a piece that might end up getting rejected. Now, let's say I found a piece that seems promising, but it needs a little TLC, maybe some light cleaning, or minor touch-ups. Is it worth putting in the effort, or should I just focus on pieces that are ready to go?
Well, that's where understanding your time and skills comes in if you're comfortable with basic cleaning and repairs. And you can do them efficiently without spending a fortune. It could definitely be worth it.
So it's all about calculating that potential ROI, return on investment.
Exactly. Let's say you find a beautiful wooden side table that's got a few scratches and a slightly dull finish, a quick sanding, and a fresh coat of varnish. Could transform it from to must-have. But if you need to hire someone to do those repairs, the cost might eat into your profit.
So it's about being Realistic about your own abilities and resources. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. When it comes to sourcing furniture, for Kaiyo, we've talked about assessing quality, understanding market value, making strategic repairs, and even building relationships with the platform. But I think it's time to address the elephant in the room, competition. There must be tons of other people out there doing the exact same thing.
It's true. The online furniture resale market is becoming increasingly competitive. But that doesn't mean there isn't room for you.
So how do you stand out in such a crowded space?
Well, it all goes back to those key principles we've been talking about. Understanding Kaiyo's market, being selective about the pieces you choose, presenting them impeccably, and pricing them strategically.
So it's not just about finding any old piece of furniture. It's about finding the right piece for the right buyer at the right price.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to compete with everyone on the platform. You can carve out your own niche by specializing in a particular style, era, or even price point.
That makes a lot of sense. So instead of trying to be like everything to everyone, you could become the go-to seller for, say, mid-century modern furniture or affordable vintage finds.
Right. And building that reputation for expertise and quality can ultimately give you an edge in a competitive market.
I love that approach. It's all about playing to your strengths and finding your unique selling proposition. Now I think it's time to shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture of furniture flipping. I mean, we've been focusing on Kaiyo, but there are other platforms and options out there. What are some of the pros and cons of using a service like Kaiyo versus going it alone on a more traditional marketplace?
That's a great question. And the answer really depends on your priorities and resources. Platforms like Kaiyo offer incredible convenience. They handle all the logistics, from photography and listing to pickup and delivery.
That sounds like a dream come true for someone who's short on time or doesn't want to deal with the hassle of traditional selling.
Exactly. And they also provide a level of quality control and buyer trust that you might not find on other platforms. So buyers know they're getting authentic pieces in good condition, and that peace of mind can translate into higher prices.
But what about the cons? There's got to be a downside.
Yeah. Well, the biggest con is the commission structure. Kaiyo takes a significant percentage of the sale price, which can impact your profit margin.
So you're paying for that convenience and marketing power.
Exactly. And you also have less control over the pricing and presentation of your items. Kaiyo sets the final price, and they have their own style guidelines for photography and descriptions.
So if you're someone who really enjoys the creative side of selling and wants complete control over every detail, a platform like Kaiyo might feel a bit restrictive.
Right. And the other potential downside is the limited market reach. Kaiyo primarily operates in major metropolitan areas. So if you're located in a smaller town or rural area, you might not have access to their services.
Okay, so it's all about weighing the pros and cons and figuring out what works best for your individual circumstances. Now, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the ethical considerations of furniture flipping. I mean, it's easy to get caught up
In the excitement
of making a profit, but are there any ethical pitfalls to watch out for?
It's definitely something to be mindful of. The key is to always prioritize transparency and honesty in your dealings. So misrepresenting an item's condition or origin is not only unethical, but it can also damage your reputation and potentially lead to legal issues.
So no trying to pass off a cheap knockoff as a designer original.
Absolutely not. That's a big no. And beyond the legalities, there's also the question of fair pricing. While you're entitled to make a profit, it's important to be reasonable and not exploit buyers, especially those who might be vulnerable or financially disadvantaged.
So it's about finding that balance between making a profit and being a responsible seller.
Exactly. And it's also worth considering the environmental impact of your actions. We've talked about how selling used furniture can be a sustainable choice, but it's important to be mindful of the entire
So
process,
not just dumping unwanted pieces at the curb and calling it a day.
right? Think about the packaging materials you use, the transportation involved, all of that. There are ways to minimize your footprint even further.
Like using recycled packing materials or choosing local buyers to reduce shipping distances.
Exactly. It all adds up. And remember, the ultimate goal of furniture flipping should be to give these pieces a new lease on life, not just to generate quick cash.
I love that perspective. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the mechanics of selling on Kaiyo, the financial and strategic considerations, and even the ethical implications. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. Imagine this, right? You're at an estate sale, and you're sifting through what seems like a mountain of, stuff, and then spot it, tucked away in a corner, this stunning walnut dining table with those iconic mid-century modern lines.
Oh, yeah. The kind of piece that would look right at home in a...
Design magazine.
Exactly. And the price, let's just say, it's worth way more than what they're asking. That's the magic of this whole furniture flipping thing.
Right. It's about having that.
Eye for quality and potential.
It really is. It's like a treasure hunt where the reward is both profit and the satisfaction of giving these beautiful pieces a new life. I love that analogy. So let's say you find that perfect piece. You snag it for a spiel and it sails through Kaiyo's approval process. What are some of the things that can really make your listing stand out?
Okay. Aside from those, professional quality photos we talked about, it's all about crafting a compelling description. So think about the details. That would catch your eye. As a buyer, is it made from a particular type of wood? Does it have any unique features? Or a cool backstory?
So instead of just saying vintage dining table, you might say stunning mid-century modern walnut dining table with sleek tapered legs and a rich patina, perfect for hosting elegant dinner parties.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's about painting a picture with words, appealing to the buyer's imagination. And don't forget to highlight any practical details like dimensions or seating capacity.
You want to give buyers all the information they need to make an informed decision. Now, we've talked a lot about the strategic side of selling on Kaiyo, but what about the emotional aspect? There's got to be a certain level of attachment when you're dealing with these beautiful and often historic pieces.
Oh, definitely. It's easy to get caught up in the sentimental value, especially if it's a piece you've owned and loved for years. But part of being successful at furniture flipping is learning to detach and seeing each piece as a potential.
Access. It's about separating your personal feelings from the business transaction.
Exactly. And remember, even if you're Karian, sourcing items specifically to resell, you're still playing a part in preserving their history and giving them a chance to be appreciated by someone new.
That's a great way to reframe it. It's not just about making money. It's about keeping these pieces in circulation and preventing them from ending up in a landfill.
Absolutely. There's a sustainability aspect to furniture flipping, I think is really important.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to come back to that image we started with. The thrill of the hunt, the excitement of finding that hidden gemmies at an estate sale or a thrift store. That's what makes this whole thing so compelling, right? It's not just about making money. It's about the journey, the discovery, the possibility of uncovering something truly special.
Yeah, it's like being a modern-day archaeologist, unearthing treasures from the past. And the best part is you get to share those treasures with others who would actually appreciate them just as much as you do.
So for our listener out there who's maybe feeling inspired to try their hand at furniture flipping, what's the one piece of advice we'd leave them with?
I'd say do your research, be patient, and don't be afraid to take risks. The world of furniture is full of hidden gems. just waiting to be discovered, and with a little bit of effort, a lot of passion. You can turn your love of furniture into a rewarding and profitable venture.
I love that. It's all about passion, knowledge, and a little bit of luck. All right, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Kaiyo and the art of furniture flipping. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and that you're feeling inspired to go out there and find your own hidden treasures. Until next time, happy hunting. TAE.